Hey guys, Mike here. So another volatile day in the market. No surprise there with IWM getting smashed down, QQQ all over the place today. And so we'll look into that, look at definitely what to watch out for, where we might be going over here in the next like 4 to 6 weeks. Also some stocks to look out for and see if they are starting to base out, right? Especially if we start getting red days. Like look to see if, and you can get these yourself as well. Just start making a list of stocks that you might be able to see are basing that or not, and are even trying to hold up under any kind of selling pressure and stuff with the overall market that is. And so we'll look at a bunch of those. And when we look at this right here, I mean, we're going to go into Tesla, which had a big day, and the reason why it had a big day, all that fun stuff. But the one thing to keep in mind and what's going to happen here in, maybe weeks, maybe a couple months, is you're starting to get this yield curve, the 10-year, 2-year, to get very close to uninverting, okay? And this is when stuff usually breaks weeks to months afterwards, and it finally actually hits that zero line and gets above it. Again, you would keep thinking it's going to come uninvert. It starts to turn back down, but it looks like it's inevitable coming up here. But it's not just about the 10-year, 2-year. You also want to look at the 10-year, 3-month, okay? And when both of these uninvert, that's when you usually start to get major problems, and we'll actually zoom back and you can see what I'm talking about right here. That's when the recessions normally happen, okay, when both are uninverted. And the 10-year, 3-month, as you can see, is way down there. So we'll see, that one's going to seem like it's going to take a while unless something crazy happens. And that's where this chart right here comes in at when you talk about the Fed rate increases versus their first cut. How many months have passed? This is where we're at currently, around 12 months, a year later, right? The only one that's been longer is 2006 to 2007 on this chart right here. I didn't pull up the 70s or anything. Maybe that was even longer. But again, when they keep going this long, so if they say they do cut in September, we got to add completed July then. We would have completed August as well. So we'll be right up there to that 08 financial crisis when they held rates for quite a long time, okay? And now looking at what's going on with the SPY, the S&P, QQQ, you can see, we're still holding this 50, still holding this trend line, which goes back to like October 2023 right here on the SPY. When you pull up the Qs right here, we'll just pull this one up. Obviously, we can see that this one did not retest its 50 yet, so there has been no rejection or anything. It's kind of moving up, grabbing liquidity. The 100 is right down there, laid on that trend line at the bottom, which we're going to look more into in just a minute and see if it does happen, just happens to break that trend line, where it could go. IWM did that thing we talked about yesterday when I said you don't want to break this shaded area. It broke it, continued this little waterfall down, up, down over percent for the day. It was down like 1.8% at one point in time. And now the real question is now that it's down in that wedge going to continue to move down to the bottom right there, which of course you can see that daily fair value gap is going to line up with that. So if it wants to come down and grab liquidity, it can. I'm just going to move that box down right there. And then what we'll do is go back in here, and we're going to add a little box up here on the top right there, because which direction is going to go, we're going to have to find out with everything going on this week. So it could do two different courses. You could, with this box up here at the top, you have liquidity at the top and below. Now it could move up, grab liquidity at the top, then maybe come back down, or head down first, grab liquidity, and then move back up to the other spot. So that's what we're going to have to figure out. Again, a lot of this will have to do with the info, what's going on with FOMC on Wednesday, all that fun stuff, jobs data, blah. So we'll get to see on that one. And one thing that did happen over the last 4 trading days, you had this falling wedge, when you compare IWM and SPY and how they're performing against each other, and it's been going on since 2021, that it finally broke out of, because that was the power you saw going into last week. It was really outperforming the SPY. And you've seen it many other times in the past when this happens, okay? And it can be, and it don't matter if it's going sideways, that's fine too. It just means it's kind of holding its own against the SPY. But if it's going up that much, it's really outperforming the SPY. And so again, we'll get to see if Tom Lee was right about the SPY or the S&P going sideways for the next couple of months. But a path you might see is this right here, where if we start to get bullishness flow back in from FOMC and all this other stuff, and you start to move us up to the top of that trend line right there, somewhere in that area around 55, 60, and then you can see coming in maybe some part of August going into September, that moved down to around like 53, 50, somewhere in there into that shaded box. That could be something we could see play out over the next couple weeks or something like that, or next few weeks. So we'll have to see. And then when you look at the Qs, if this trend line right here breaks, which goes back to October 2023, if that breaks, then what you're looking at, and again, this is an if, right? If it happens, then definitely I can't imagine the minimum bottom is going to be that gap right there. And so I'm going to draw this shaded box right here. So somewhere in between like 425 to 430, somewhere in there would be my guess if that happens. Again, this is an if. We can start just going parabolic from here. What to see if semiconductors start coming in, if the AI play starts coming in, that can happen. Okay, but I'm just kind of putting it out there of what could happen here and what path it may take. Now, looking at Tesla, big day for Tesla, up over 5% today. You can see it got back above that trend line. Again, keep it simple. If it stays above the trend line, which it tested twice a day on smaller time frames, then everything is looking pretty good. If it goes below it, that's a rough one. And when you look at this, obviously we'll see if we're going to fill even more of this gap tomorrow. Still got to get above like 236.50 right there. But this was a news day. Okay, this was one of those ones where Morgan Stanley, which I consider to be kind of conservative, right, came out and said they're replacing Ford with Tesla as one of their top picks, but also reiterated a $310 price target. And I consider Morgan Stanley to be a conservative group. And so that really got it going, even on a day like today. And so it never looked back. But, looking at this, the other thing is I don't consider this to be a golden cross because technically I want to give it one more day to see some room between the 50 and 200. But if it carries out again tomorrow and we do get the official golden cross, you can see I've showed you this before. Usually you get nice runs. It don't mean it's going to sell off immediately. Golden cross there, it sold off like 5% and then popped another like 15%. Okay. And so, and you can see even from that top right there, the day it crossed, it was up 10% a short time later. And so it don't mean it's going straight up. There was a fake out. That's why I want to wait one more day right there to see some space between the 50 and the 200 on the daily. And then you can see right there, that was an enormous run. I think it was 86% if I'm not mistaken. So that was a big run right there. So again, we'll see if the golden cross actually, to me, makes it official tomorrow. Now looking at your semiconductors, obviously SMH still holding this trend line. So as long as we're above that line and moving up, I mean, your semis are starting to finally, pull back up. A lot of them got to get it, their RSI is above 50, get the momentum back going, and the AI pump has to start continuing. Some of you guys are talking about why don't you use SOX? I just use what I like to use, which is SMH for me because I showed you the weightings. You can use SOX, right? It has this same trend line, and it's hit this trend line way more times. And it hadn't come down here and hit it again yet, but you can see when it fails that trend line, that was a nice little drop right there after we got the rejection and then got back above it and kept moving. But, quite a few times it's hit it. We haven't got down here yet, okay? And when a lot of semiconductors reporting this week, if they're soft, we'll see. But the reason why I don't use it is because of the way they do their weightings. Broadcom number one. I don't care anything about Broadcom being number one. And there's no Taiwan Semiconductors on here or anything. And so I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So, that's why I don't use SOX. I just use SMH. I like to use it, but SOX, nothing wrong with using SOX, if that's your thing. Now, looking at some stocks real quick here, and there's plenty of these out there. I'm just pulling up some, right? So we kind of talk about these, and these are companies, that I think, obviously are going to be around next 10 to 20 years and stuff. But, and have just been beat down. Like CrowdStrike is down again, another 5% in after hours, right? And so, this one right here, anywhere probably 205, 245, somewhere there is a good DCA zone, depending on how you look at it. Again, Microsoft has a huge security part to their company. So, they have just as many clients and everything else, if I'm not mistaken. Snowflake's another one, coming back down here, try to base it right there in that shaded area. Chipotle is another one where it's starting to creep above 50, but, anywhere in that area, $40 to $50, most likely going to be a good zone for it. But again, what I'm saying is make a folder. Like, get you a folder of stocks that you think are actually starting to bottom out that have been beat down, right? I mean, Nike's been just hammered, and I don't think the company's going anywhere. It's a global company. It just needs to solve some problems, that's for sure, but it has a loyal customer base, right? Lulu's another one. I make fun of the sweatpants. I get it. But, it's just one of those ones in this environment when people are cutting back, that's when you're getting it. But when we get through whatever, whether it's a recession, whether it's a downturn, whatever it is, when people start really spending up again, these names will come back. That's just the way it is, and they've been beat down so much. I mean, Lulu down over 50%. I mean, that's a big move. I mean, literally, if you bought in 2020, you're probably in the red right now if you DCA'd in, especially. We were talking about this in the Discord and stuff, and they were just a big beneficiary of the 2020 stay at home and everybody's working out and all that stuff like Peloton, because you can see it in their year-over-year revenues. And so, but again, they do have a low following, so that's for sure. And they don't want to fall below. You see where they're bouncing? Don't want to fall below this line, let me tell you. I mean, that would be a hot, hot mess. if it fell below that line. And so that's where it's bouncing right now. Okay, so that's why you're getting this bounce in Lululemon right now and being down as much as it is. And we'll pull back here and I'll show you where this line's coming from. Oh, and you can look right there, it already fell below the 2020 top part of it before the 2020 crash. But right there, you have some more liquidity it can grab if it wants to grab it. And so it's key that it stays above that. Because you can look at the RSIs and all these things, like they have no momentum to them, but basing out is a good thing. So if you see them start to base out and build a structure within a small like percentage range, that is not a bad thing at all. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind. Again, this one is just, there's another one, Disney. Oh boy, down 28%. And because what? People are cutting back. They got problems, right? Movies aren't doing as well as they used to do, all that fun stuff. People aren't going to the park as much. But it's another one of those names. People, 10 years, 5 years, 20 years, whatever you want to put out there, whatever your time horizon is, will it be higher once it hits your target, wherever your target's at? Okay, so that's what you got to think of. And one of the first things I do with a lot of stocks like this, and please put yours in the comments because I'd love to look at them too, is pull up a 5-day moving average. First, you got to get above the 5-day moving average. That's what you got to do. And then you got to get this RSI going. You got some momentum to you. And so a lot of these are not above the 5-day moving average, probably yours either, right? And especially if you're expecting it to drop even farther. But, you ain't got to be a bottom fisher. Just wait and see if you can get above the 5-day moving average, for a few days, a week, 2 weeks, whatever it is. See if that RSI starts getting above 50, right? Or bulls are back in charge, that kind of stuff. Just simple things, MACD crosses, all that good stuff. That's what you're looking for in names like this. But the most important thing is you're going to have opportunities coming up, from here on over the next 12 months for sure. And I'm just telling you, get your levels where you feel comfortable, where your TA is telling you to go, all that good stuff, because, you're going to have plenty of opportunities. I know some of the members, they transferred a bunch of money out of their savings. They're waiting for a good opportunity. Well, we'll see what they find, but there's going to be plenty of opportunities out there. I'm pretty sure people buying NVIDIA at 140 are probably going, wow, it's looking really good now, especially at 107 last week. And if it goes down to, let's say, between 95 and 100, looks even better, right? So that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about. But don't just wait till something happens and go, oh my God, what stocks are good to buy? Start making your list and share it in the comments. I'll put some of them up here on one of the channels if you want me to. And we'll look at it together and stuff. So, looking at earnings coming out here tomorrow, I got a bunch of them, right? Fintech's on board, SoFi, PayPal, oil is going to be doing it, P&G. Then you can have AMD, Microsoft, Starbucks, Pinterest, First Solar, which is expecting to have a big move. And then we'll have CB Consumer Conference at 10 and JOLTS job openings, which is always a fun one because the jobs report that comes out the next day usually contradicts it, so they're never in line and everything. But again, it's something else to create volatility for the market and see which direction it wants to go and everything. And, because right now what's crazy about it, like I said, now that you have another person coming in to try to get a Democrat nomination, you'll have a sitting president. Seasonality is going to end up most likely changing if that's the case, right? And so I'm doing a members video on that tomorrow. And so that will change how things shift if that is the case, right? Because I don't have a sitting president running anymore. And then, of course, you're sitting here going into August, and August is a toss-up. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's just flat, sometimes it's not good, right? And then September's right around the corner, right? It's only 31 days away or 32 days away, whatever it is. And that is the worst month for the stock market. Don't mean every single year, but very, very high rate, like 90% it seems like. It's usually pretty rough. In best case, it goes sideways, or it has a pop and then a huge drop or something. But, so it's going to be, we're in an interesting window right now, to say the least. So I'll keep you guys up to date on all that stuff. And again, share those stocks that you're looking at to try to base out and get on a discount stuff. So please hit that like and subscribe button on your way out as usual. Appreciate all you guys watching, sharing the videos. Feel free to sign up for the membership and everything you want to get all that entails. And I will see you guys tomorrow.